Hello, welcome to this video. We're going to go through a down dog or a downward dog, depending on how you call it or may have heard it be called, and just talk through some of the key cues and the key points to note and how to work on it over time. The more downward dogs that you do, the easier it will become, the stronger you'll become in your arms, the maybe a little bit more flexible you'll become in your legs. So it's a real foundational pose. It's something that we do so many times in yoga, so it's really wonderful to be able to be super familiar with it. So let's go. So for our downward dog, it's easy to begin in a kneeling position. Perhaps our toes are tucked first of all. We're going to come then onto our hands and knees. We want our wrists under our shoulders, our knees under our hips. Our wrists are sort of our shoulder distance apart, so we don't want them too wide and we don't want them too narrow. So just finding that position where the wrists are under your shoulders and shoulder distance between our hands. And we want our fingers sprayed nice and broadly, so we don't want our fingers kind of together. We want them nice and broadly so we can see our mat or the floor in between each of the digits. And our fingers are pointing forwards, not to the side, not behind, not at sort of an angle at 10 and 2. We want it pointing to 12 o'clock with that middle finger. And our inner elbows are going to be pointing inwards towards each other. So finding this position first of all. Now to lift up into our downward dog, we need to engage our lower abdomen and our inner thighs. So for this, we're going to take an inhale and we're just going to hover here, just engaging those inner thighs, engaging that abdomen, and then we're going to exhale, lower down. So just notice that. Notice if you felt the engagement in the body. Let's take it one more time. Inhale, squeezing those inner thighs, hovering the knees, engaging the core. The neck keeps sort of looking down, our head is looking down to the mat. Lengthen our spine, and then exhale, dropping it down. Maybe releasing the hands, releasing the toes, just come to kneeling. And just notice how that felt in the body. You might have a bit of tension. We wouldn't really hold that in that position for a long time when coming into a downward dog. We're just doing that just to help find that connectivity to that part of the body. So let's come again. So reset, find your weight, your wrists under your shoulders, your middle finger pointing forward. Our fingers are nicely spread out. And you also want the weight in your fingertips. So we're not sort of putting all of the weight in all of the digits. You've kind of got a little bit of a raise so that the fingertips and then the palm of the hand is connected to the mat. So it's almost like you're very slightly gripping the mat with your fingers. And then there's a very slight raise of the fingers in the length. It's just the fingertips at the bottom, at the top, that are sort of connected. We're going to, inner part of our elbows are going to face inwards towards each other. So our hands are under our shoulders. So always finding that nice alignment, tuning into your body. Tucking our toes, we're going to inhale, lift our inner thigh, lift our body, so lift our knees, engaging the inner thighs, engaging the core, and then we're going to exhale, push up and back, sending our weight up and back towards our heels. So our bottom's going to shine nice and broadly. If it's comfortable, we're going to bring our head in between our arms. Our ears are just going to nestle nicely in between our sort of four upper arms, and our gaze is going to travel back between the gap between our ankles. Now for some of us, we might not be able to get into this position, so here's a few options. You can bend your knees. It's better to find that length in your spine than it is to find kind of the length in your legs. So if you're finding the length in your legs, you're coming more into a plank. We want to find that length in our spine so that we've got this beautiful sort of pyramid, triangle sort of shape with our body. So you can always bend those knees to find that length from your wrists all the way to your tailbone. And then continue to look through the spine, look through the ankles. So our ankles are either hip distance apart and our sort of feet are hip distance apart, or you can bring your toes to touch. So that's a traditional way, but you might find it more comfortable for your feet to be hip distance apart. Your ankles and your heels might not touch the mat. That's okay. Now again, if our weight is quite here, it's possible because we haven't got the strength in our arms and around our shoulders to be able to push up and back. So it's something that you can set, you can always release here. It's something that you can set an intention for, with each practice. You'll gain that strength and you'll gain that core strength, that shoulder strength, that arm strength. And over time, with more practice, more repetition, you will begin to see, some difference, and you will then see your bottom sort of begin to go up and back. So let's push up and back into our downward dog. So you also, sometimes I see downward dogs where they're quite close together. You do want nice sort of distance between there. So when we roll forwards, perhaps into a plank, you might just need to slightly readjust your fingers and your hand, one hand space forward. And again, you can reduce them back. So you want a beautiful distance, at least a meter. I think that's probably more than a meter, isn't it? But a nice sort of distance. Again, bend those knees if you wish. And be really mindful that your earlobes and your shoulders are not kind of connected, so keep sort of pushing up and out of your shoulder cups. Then we can stay here for 5 breaths normally. Then we're going to lower down, this time back on to our knees. So you want nice broadness across those buttocks. Keep sort of sending that tailbone up towards the ceiling, up towards the sky. The sit bones are pointing and shining broadly behind you. And we want this like beautiful sort of triangular pyramid-like shape underneath our torso, or sort of on the outside if we were to draw up and around our body. So that is a downward dog. Like I said, your shape may look slightly differently depending on your flexibility and your strength. But it will come with time. So just know that you set the intention, you know kind of roughly what you're looking for, but the weight will be back a bit over our bottom and our heels is the intention. So if we need to bend our legs, we can bend our legs so that the weight is not over our wrists and our shoulders. We're sending that weight, that center of gravity, back so it's over our heels. If our heels are not touching the mat, that's okay. We can just stay on the balls of our feet. And maybe as our hamstrings begin to release, we might be able to touch the floor. And you're always welcome just to warm up those hamstrings in a downward dog. So this is called pedaling the feet and just walking on the spot. It's a really nice way to warm up the hamstrings. And then you can always add a little bit of a twist and a movement in your torso just for some added torso flexibility. And then when we come out, we'll just release. So that's our downward dog. Thank you for watching.